Hi and welcome to your sixth tutorial on John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. In this tutorial we're going to look at our first impressions of Slim. Now Slim is a minor character, but he is very important in terms of the way that the story develops, and also in terms of your interpretation of the novel as a whole. But today we're just going to start by looking at sort of first impressions. So, when we first meet Slim, this is how he is described. He moved with a majesty only achieved by royalty and master craftsmen. His hatchet face was ageless. His slow speech had overtones not of thought, but of understanding beyond thought. His hands, large and lean, were as delicate in their action as those of a temple dancer. So the first thing to say about Slim is that he really is the leader of the men. He's he's much higher in status than anybody else, including the boss and including Curly. He's described by using words like majesty and royalty, sort of comparing him to a prince, and I think it does actually compare him to a prince later on, so look out for that description. But in some ways he's actually seen as being even more than a prince, even more than a king. He's seen as a sort of godlike figure. The word ageless would suggest this, and also he seems to understand things instinctively. He has an understanding beyond thought. Now, when we look at setting later on, there is a really good section that reinforces this idea of Slim as a sort of godlike figure. Now, as we've mentioned before, hands are important. Now, the first thing to say about Slim's hands is that they are described as being large and lean. So this shows that he's strong and that he's hard working. Remember that physical descriptions can also give you an indication of the sort of personality or character. So this could also suggest an emotional strength or perhaps even a spiritual strength. His hands are large and lean, so they're not sort of chubby or fatty or filled with things that they don't need. They are they're almost like working tools. They're very pure in that sense. But his hands, as well as being sort of strong and large, are also described as being delicate, as delicate in their action as those of a temple dancer. So this would suggest that he's also a very sensitive character and very careful. So on the whole, he's quite a good guy. He's a very thoughtful guy. He's a very considered guy, and he's respected by the rest of the men on the ranch. So Slim is undoubtedly the leader of the men. He's strong and hard-working, but also sensitive and caring. The rest of the men seem to look up to him as if he is a prince or a godlike figure. And as I've said, you probably want to pick up on this idea of him being a godlike figure later on when we look at the setting. Okay, so that's it for Slim. Not a lot to say about him at this stage. He's a bit of a mysterious character in some ways, the kind of strong, silent type, but we will hear more about him later. So, as always, if you want to check out more of our resources, you can do so at lulu.com/spotlight/schoolfrog. And if you want to check out our blog, you can find that at schoolfrog.blogspot.co.uk. Okay, so thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.